Hello.
Hello.
This is wonderful to see you.
I know what a great, it's like the only excuse we can get is if we like schedule a whole event. And then you get to
Yeah, I think it only goes for about 5 hours today. You're all right with that, aren't you?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I can keep it to a tight five if you want, but I know it's the beginning of the day there.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man.
We've got all Sunday.
Thanks for joining us
Exactly.
on your Saturday.
Yeah,
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
yeah, very
Happy
cool.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have lots of people. Yeah, we've got a great little community now with lots of young kids, and so they're doing there's a group doing some work with
We're making a family holiday
camps,
camp.
camps and stuff. So there's a lot of
Oh,
interest in education for
that's
life.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm so glad. Yeah, well, I'm very happy to organize. I'm just shifting myself away now that I'm actually looking at the background, see if I can, I don't know. It's all good.
Yeah,
Looks educational.
yeah.
That's what I was going for. That's what I figured. It was like, this is a real life school. It's not my office. I broke in here. But it looks the part.
Yeah, the guitar is awesome.
Yeah.
Is that a sticker?
That's what I'm trying to frame. I didn't like it behind my head.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now, I have to tell you that we've had a few tech difficulties, and I feel like people get really nervous if I don't let them in the room. Are you
Oh,
okay if
sure.
I just let them in? Because
And just to give you the heads up, yeah, it's an hour. You'll feel it. We've got quite a good.
Perfect.
yeah, we've
coming
got like
out.
10 people now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Here we go. And we'll introduce you, of course, but then hand you the reins, and I'll just make sure everyone can join.
You good with a prayer and a to start, or do you want us to? Or
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Why not?
while people trickle in, we'll just start with that
put him
little
on the spot.
intro. So Aryavan has been, well, his parents have been a part of Ananda, so he grew up with the community around him, but also something really special about you that I'm sure you don't share as often as, people would have the opportunity down here to hear about, which is that you actually, how do I say this? You were with Swami filming him for several years throughout his travels near the end of his life. And that was such a gift. And he encouraged you to start this Dharma of education for life. And we were just previewing a bit about EFL. You'll hear us use that acronym a lot today, but just how it's come down our lineage. It's such an important part of how this ray of light is expressed. And we're just so grateful and fortunate to have you here as someone who's now principal of a school, which is beautiful to have someone of your demographic be able to lead and share that attunement. So it shows a lot about Aryavan. And you'll also note that he's probably one of the funniest people I've ever met. He has the best jokes. They're all light, but they're so cool. You're cool.
Oh, no. Well, I appreciate that, but now it's like
Pressure's
I
on.
don't know any jokes. Yeah, pressure's on.
See? There you go. All right. So do you have
And-
anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say
Going close with Asha.
Aryavan has been to Australia. He was in our
Yeah.
first ever retreat.
Yeah.
And, his amazing tech skills were behind the scenes, but just such a powerful energy wherever you go. And it's such a joy to have you here. And just briefly, you've been in India.
India, that's right. Yeah.
With EFL and developing it in India. So,
And Italy,
and Italy.
the Institute. Yeah.
So in all parts of it, I'm going to say humility is one of your amazing traits because you do stuff without people knowing. It's like you're amazing. So it's a gift to have you with us.
I'm very grateful to be here. I hope a quarter of what you say is true, because that would be a great life. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to see familiar faces. Hi, Ashwin, Hasjan, probably others. I apologize if I don't mention everyone that I've met before in person, but it's just really great to be with you all. I was looking at a map of Australia again, because I'm a very geographically visual kind of person. And even just looking at the map, and trying to figure out, I kept thinking NSW meant North South Wales, and I thought that was an odd thing to name a state, and then discovered that it in fact was not what they did, but that's part of why I was looking at it. And yeah, just a flood of memories came back of just what was a very short visit, but felt like a very it was very meaningful to me, and actually, yeah, to my wife too. We both just felt very immediately at home. And of course, that's the country, but it's more so the people and all of you. So I'm really grateful to get to be here with you today and to share. And my hope is that this will be interactive as well. I'll share a bit about Education for Life. This is just by way of introduction, and just my experience of it, getting from being a student in it to being a teacher in it to getting to try to help others to experience it and understand it and share it. And then then I'd like to reserve a good chunk of time for questions. And if the classic teacher experience is, you say, are there any questions? And then there are no questions. So I might have questions for you to start, to sort of get the juices flowing. But as we're going through, please feel free to just think about, this is, whether you work with children, whether you have children, whether you're a teacher or a parent, just a human being, you had parents, you had a childhood, that part at least we all share. We can think about, essentially the whole topic of today is just Sanatan Dharma as applied to working with children. What does that mean? And, so that's it's master's teachings, it's the line of masters, and as was shared and alluded to, and I'll talk about after the prayer as we get into the actual talk. I don't want to give the whole thing before we actually begin. A very important thing to many of our masters. It's not a coincidence, and so we'll talk a bit about that as well. But actually, before then we continue on, if possible, I'd like to begin with a prayer, and we'll start on that note, and then we'll continue on. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, our beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, saints and sages of all traditions, friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda. Humbly we bow before you all. Great masters, be with us in this sharing and throughout our days. Help us to always remember your living presence in our lives, your dynamic interest in our lives. Help us remember that you walk with us, that there's nothing that we do in this life that we do without you. Help us feel you in every breath, in every moment, in every word, in every action. And help us through that become more and more like you, until one day, through your grace, through your compassion, we become one with thee. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Amen. All right. Well, I'll share a little bit more about my own journey, only because it ties so directly into the topic today. Not because my journey in and of itself is so interesting, but because we all have to go through life. We all have to grow up. We all have to be educated. Whether or not we ever went to school, although I expect because of how our society is organized right now, most of us did. But in times before formal education, did we not learn things? All of life. Did we, or another way of putting it, when we left school, did we stop learning things? Now, it does feel sometimes the people that we meet in the world might have stopped learning things after school. Maybe they didn't even learn so many things during school. But that this is life is a school. This is exactly what Master said. Swami has a beautiful song. It's time to go to school. It's time to go to school. It's time to go to school. It's time to go right now. And then in one line, all life is like a school. And it's time, I think, time to learn right now, which I always, part of it almost seems like it's an invitation, but it also feels a little bit like a threat. Like, we have to learn. This is the nature of life. All of us find ourselves in this room in large part probably because the suffering of not being in this room became too great. We reached a point in our lives and our soul evolution, whatever it is, where not doing something about the suffering became too much. Not doing something about the ignorance became too much. And so education, what's the point of it? We have things that we don't know as children, as adults, and education is there to help us to learn those things. We have math teachers, we don't yet know algebra. So we have a math teacher who's there to kind of go step by step and explain algebra to us. And that way we can go on to higher mathematics. If nobody taught you math, but you had a natural interest in it, or for whatever reason you really needed the result of algebra, probably you could figure it out. It might take your whole life. It might take several lifetimes, but you could figure out algebra. But we have teachers in order to help us to learn, so that we can learn much farther, so that we can learn geometry and algebra 2 and trigonometry and calculus. I didn't learn all of those things, but I could have. And I had the option. The potential was there because I had been trained in that. But is math enough? Is math everything? And is math actually, in the grand scheme, even as a percentage of your life, even if you're a mathematician, is it everything? It's like, well, no. We look at our lives and we realize so much of our lives are other things. They are our relationships. They are our ability to set goals and achieve them. They're our ability to discipline ourselves, our willingness to help others, our interest in helping others, all of the things that go into a happy, successful life. So that's kind of the premise of education for life. Why do we need another approach to education? Because the current approach is, I won't even say very good, is good at very specific things. It is good generally at helping us to learn mathematics. It's good generally in helping us to learn certain scientific facts. It's good at helping us to construct sentences and to write them, although from the comments I see on YouTube, I'm not so sure about that. But some people out there can still write. So it's relatively good at those things. But just like we teach algebra, or we teach mathematics in order to help someone get farther in their understanding of the mathematical world, what about our inner world? What about the qualities, the life skills, those things we were just sharing, all of those things that go towards, that are such an integral part of living a happy, successful life? So could those be in school as well? Because society generally relegates those to the trial and error stage of life. Yes, you'll learn those things, but you'll learn it through trying one thing, making a mistake, trying something else, make a mistake, which is fine in a sense. It's just, again, thinking of it from the cosmic perspective, everyone in this room has attracted to themselves a true guru. You've decided that, okay, I tried it on my own for X number of lifetimes. What X is irrelevant and depressing. So we'll just focus on now. I need somebody's help. I need somebody to tell me what I'm supposed to do. I need somebody to guide me, or at the very least, maybe not tell me what I'm supposed to do, but help me to train in the attitudes that I need in order to live, to get to my goal, to get what I want, to succeed. So anyway, I started off in one of these schools myself. I attended the Living Wisdom School here in Palo Alto, the school I'm currently sitting in right now and serving as director of for the lower school. And it was the only school I knew, so I had nothing to compare it to. And then I went on to high school outside and university outside, because we didn't have those yet. And long story, I ran into my essential emptiness moment after college, the moment where I realized that the world was not on its own, was not going to give me the satisfaction that I was looking for. It could be part of it potentially, but it wasn't going to be the source of it. And shortly thereafter, I met Swami Kriyananda, and I had studied film, so I got to be in his orbit for a while. And then I got the opportunity. He actually, at the end of his life, suggested that I get into education, that I look into becoming a school teacher. And this is kind of one of those singular moments in at least my incarnation, where I've been very blessed in my life to not have had to make a lot of decisions on my own. I've not needed to decide much of the course of my life. And that's probably true for all of us because of karma and because of just what is free will. And we hear what the masters say about how much or realistically how little free will we have. But for me, it was even more obvious. When I applied to high schools, one school accepted me, everyone else was a wait list. So that was decided. When I got into college, one school accepted me, everyone else was a wait list. That was decided. I met Swami and he said, you should be a teacher. That was decided. But I also consider that to be very positive. And because what I come to realize after the fact is I was trained to look for the wisdom that comes of itself. Look for, we are capable of seeing whatever little piece of the picture as a single human ego that we're able to see. And there's so much more out there in terms of wisdom. And this is the God eye perspective, let's say. And so one of those skills that actually is almost very helpful to leading a happy, successful life is recognizing when something comes from outside that is trying to guide you. And so I felt very gratified that I had the opportunity to see those things not as bad things. Oh, I didn't get to go to the school I wanted. Oh, I didn't get to do the thing I wanted. But rather recognizing, oh, this, whatever comes of itself, let it come. And that I feel vibrationally, that was in part because I had attended a Living Wisdom school. I grew up in an Ananda community. I had devotee parents. I was surrounded by devotees. And it's not that they were necessarily saying it directly. This is one of the great things is people ask us in Education for Life, what is the curriculum? What should I teach? How do I teach them to be masters of themselves? The very first, and I think most important part of that is to be around people who are striving to be masters of themselves. So when parents or when teachers ask, how can I do this? The very first thing I always suggest is do it yourself. Are you working to grow your own qualities, positive qualities? Are you working on developing courage or developing empathy or expansion of your own consciousness? Because that is the single most important thing that you can do in order to do that for others. Referencing something that Kalamani mentioned in the introduction, education has been demonstrably a very important part of many of our masters' lives. Sri, actually before Sri Yukteswar, Lahiri Mahashaya had a girls' school in I think it was Varanasi in Benares, where he taught young children. But Duri Mahashaya, the levitating saint, one of Master's teachers, ran a school for kids as part of his work. Sri Yukteswar, the ashram. What is an ashram if not a school? This is the concept of what Education for Life schools are actually based on. In a sense, it's the Gurukul system of India, which is it's a system where you're responsible, the teacher's responsible for the holistic education of the child on all levels, material, academic, mental, emotional, spiritual then being the foundation of that. And then of course, Master started a school as his very first public act after his training with Sri Yukteswar in Ranchi or Dihika, and then it moved to Ranchi. So these are both, I mean, we have to use the Master's lives as examples. This is something that was very important to all of them. And if you look at when Swami talks about the reason why Master came, he says it's basically to change the world, to completely transform society. And how does that happen if not through education? This is the kids who are in school right now are going to be running the show in 20 short years. And that's it's not, you see trends emerge. I mean, I sometimes joke about like the differences between millennials and Gen X and Gen Z, and now there's Gen Alpha. And these are, on one hand, funny things because, you know, we're all souls, we're all individual, but we also do incarnate for different reasons as kind of groups. If you know anything of astrology, which I don't, but I'm now going to talk in such a way that makes it seem like I do, you know, there are these larger term planets, you know, okay, Jupiter and Mars and Venus and Mercury they move around quite a bit. The moon, of course, is swirling, but the farther ones, the Saturns and especially farther out, Neptune and all of that, Uranus, are these longer term things. And so you actually do get generational vibes. And so you can see the generations that are coming up mixed with, now I'm going to take astrology and add in the yugas. It's fun. Last few talks like this I've done, we're not to devotees per se. So it's fun to just be able to throw out a concept like the yugas and just understand, hopefully, that there's like at least a somewhat of a shared thing. I don't have to go and define all of it. But you take that generational thing and then you add in the fact that we're in an ascending age. It doesn't always feel like it with the level of chaos, but that chaos is what actually happens when you take Kali Yuga energy and add a bunch of fire to it, Dwapara energy, and you raise it up. So we're in an ascending age. And so there's going to be a baseline increase in awareness on our planet, generation over generation, for the next very long time. So on one hand, there's an automatic, but on the other hand, that energy is going to need guidance. That energy is going to need help in expressing itself. And that's where, you know, in the olden days, simply learning a trade from your teacher would be enough. The blacksmith taught the next blacksmith how to blacksmith. The farmer taught the next farmer how to farm. It was just a very linear Kali Yuga model. And then the Industrial Revolution comes, and now we need factories. Now we need them to have a sort of a base level skill set, and all of that builds on it. But the most important skills that the next generation are going to need are basically an expansion of awareness, an expansion of consciousness, which is actually how each of those stages happened. If you look, it's like, yes, at first you learn one skill, you learn how to blacksmith. And now in a rising age, now we need to also learn some other things. I need to understand a bit about the science of how that works. And now I'm actually needing to be able to communicate with other people. And maybe I even need to write these things down, and it grows and grows and grows. And so we did grow to some extent with that, but now we're at a point, and this is what Master came for, is to completely transform the way that that is transmitted. And what he brought, I mean, we know he brought what he did not say it was a new religion. He said it was a new expression. And this is something I always try to keep in mind. Education for life is not new. In fact, it's as old as time itself, in a sense. The principles underlying it are the same. It's just now, what is the expression that we're ready for? What is needed in this time? And it's something different than was needed before. And it has a lot to do with consciousness. I want to ask, actually, I should have asked this before. Kalamali Nara, am I able to share my screen? Do I have that ability?
Yeah.
Ah, wonderful. I'm co-host. Very fancy. I want to share. Oh, sorry. Oh, wait, I missed Nara's, or I don't know if it was.
You are more than that.
Well,
than a co-host.
I am No, that's fair enough. I am the a spark of the infinite. I'm the eternal Atman, but for now, I'm just the co-host. So I wanted to share just something that is not, again, there's with the challenge of education for life is I can't just put it into here's the list of 5 things that education for life are, because it's so much more an energy than it is a form. This is Dwapara Yuga in itself. It's an energy, it's a consciousness more than here's the exact things you need to do. With that being said, I'm going to show you the exact things you need to do. And those are this is an example. I was just kidding. This is not exactly what you need to do, but this is an example of the school rules. And let me know if it's not visible. It should be a vertical document that looks relatively pretty, getting lots of thumbs ups. Excellent. But this for me is something that I keep it. Actually, there's a copy of this in every one of our classrooms, and I keep one here on my wall. And when I'm meeting with prospective parents, and I'm trying to figure out how to communicate what it is that we teach at the school, I often find myself pointing to these rules. And I joke sometimes, it's like most schools have rules. And it's like, okay, don't run in the halls, don't talk with your mouth full, raise your hand, which are all good advice. And we try to have our kids also follow some of them. But when I think about boiling down the essential attitudes that lead to a successful, happy life, this is, I think, a really cool expression of that. So I'll just go through and name check a couple of them. Enjoy yourself, right at the top, opening salvo. Now, we don't just put these rules on the wall and just say, okay, this is what you have to do. You have to enjoy yourself. You're not enjoying yourself, you're breaking a school rule. I mean, I might do that if I thought that it would make the child laugh, because sometimes that can be enough just to help the energy in itself. But what does it really mean to enjoy yourself? Can you enjoy yourself at the expense of others, truly? You know, as a young child, you might take a toy that somebody else is playing with because you want to play with it. And if you have the level of awareness to be able to answer the question, are you enjoying yourself? You might say, yes, I'm enjoying myself. I got the thing that I wanted. But we know from the perspective of consciousness, and also just I think every parent knows, this is not actually going to yield enjoyment. Why not? Because you've just created an enemy, for one. You've broken an essential rule of living, which is that living in harmony with others is more enjoyable than living in disharmony. That true enjoyment of the soul can't be from the causing of discomfort or pain of others, or the lack of enjoyment of others. And so we help them to learn that through direct experience. And, oh, do you see what happened when you took the toy? Yeah, the other kids started crying. Do you think you could have done something else where you both could have enjoyed it? What do you think about sharing the toy with them, or taking turns with the toy? Or maybe you can play a game together with something else. So this is an essential attitude that we're trying to help the child to understand. But again, always by drawing their attention to their own experience, not to hold it as a platitude or as something rote that we want them to memorize. Okay, I remember the 9 rules: enjoy yourself, practice kindness, choose happiness. But rather, oh no, I have had experiences in my life, whether it's the kindergarten example or the middle school example or the adult example, where to truly enjoy myself, I had to take into account the experience of others. This is actually in Education for Life. Many of you may have already read the book. If you haven't, I wholeheartedly recommend it, even and maybe especially for those who do not work with children, because all it is an expression of the same truths that we read in the Gita. But because it's about children, I find it way more accessible in moments. I find it it's an easier way of understanding when Krishna talks about Rajas and Sattva and Tamas and all the different levels and how you move between those energies. I mean, it's profound and it's richly helpful. But when I read the chapter on progressive development in Education for Life, I see he's talking about the exact same things, but in a way that is, sometimes it depersonalizes it to see it in the child, to see it in somebody else. And then you're like, oh, but that's actually also true for me. choosing happiness. Okay, yes, we're in a for a long time, our society is in a constant state of correction. The pendulum swings back and forth. And for a long time, you know, we did not we were not allowed to express sadness at the level that we probably should. It was considered something maybe that should be a little bit repressed, a little bit ignored, supposed to, stiff upper lip and all that, charge on. And so then, very rightly, we went into a state of correction, and we want to acknowledge those feelings. We want to be able to feel safe in expressing those feelings and feeling those feelings. And it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to feel these things. And all of that is 100% true. But in some ways in a society, I feel maybe we've overcorrected, and now we've gotten to the point where we're content to stay in that state. We're content to almost wallow in that state. And that's not something that's going to bring us long-term happiness and success. Yes, feeling sad when something sad happens is sometimes a wonderful, growthful moment. But knowing that you actually have the power when the time is right, and maybe only you know when that is, but to say, okay, I felt sad, that was bad, but now I'm going to choose the state of consciousness that I want to feel. I want to now move forward. I want to now find solutions. I want to, whatever it is, and I'm ready, and I can choose that. Now that's on the grand scale. Sometimes also we just let ourselves feel bad because, oh, somebody said something mean to me. It's like, okay, on one hand, yes, I could feel bad about that. And he did say something mean to me. That was not kind. But do I want the rest of the world to have control over how I feel? Do I want to hand the keys of my joy over to, let's be honest, a bunch of idiots just out there? Like, they don't have awareness. Do I really want to hand like how I feel about my life to someone who does not have the awareness to know that they're having this impact on me? Maybe yes, maybe no. And so this is an opportunity. It doesn't mean to repress or suppress or avoid, but it's like, okay, yeah, I understand you're feeling bad. Do you like feeling this way? If no, is there something you can do about it? Can you move energy? Can you just sort of flip a switch and say, oh yeah, somebody said something mean to me, and that's unfortunate, but I'm not going to let that define how I feel about myself. And so on and so forth. So these, being a lifelong learner, laughing often, this is a fantastic one. It's just like, sometimes laughter truly is the best medicine. Maybe not for a broken leg, but it can be the best medicine for hurt feelings or feeling a little tired or feeling a little low. I'll go watch, a Jim Carrey compilation on YouTube, and boom, I'm back. Sometimes just seeing him sacrifice his body for my happiness really, really does work for me. Trust yourself. How much do we miss out on as people because we let self-doubt kind of just cripple us before we even had a chance to try something? And so we're always going through these things, though, in a way that is experiential and is real and is authentic. We went through this semester. This isn't always the way we do it, but I felt inspired with the middle school to go through these rules week by week. And we just sort of said, okay, this week we're going to practice enjoying yourself. What does it actually mean to enjoy yourself? Can you enjoy yourself when you're doing something that's not your preferred activity, let's say? Doing little stuff. You always want to practice small. Even in our lives, practice when it's easier is something Swami told us often about these things. So let's say you have to do, you have chores at home. So see if you can find some way to enjoy yourself while doing this thing that you don't love. You're taking out the trash, you're folding the laundry, whatever it is. And so we had a wide range of experiments. Some of them started, they listened to a song that they liked while they took the trash to the curb. And they found that they enjoyed it a little more. They kind of danced their way there and then danced their way back. And did you enjoy it a little more than usual? Yes. Folding laundry or putting away laundry. I started making a game out of it. So I was taking the basketball, the clothes and made a basketball and shot it into the hamper. Boom, 3 points. I'm enjoying it a little bit more. Some even just sort of said, I just decided to practice this and to sort of see if, without doing anything different outwardly, if I could just enjoy myself a little better. And I found some cases that I did. Some came back and said, nope, couldn't do it. I did not enjoy myself anymore. It didn't work. And that's okay too. Because all of these things that we're doing, when you're working with children especially, but also with ourselves, we have to have patience. We have to be like thinking, okay, this thing didn't work exactly how I wanted right away. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe that's true. But let's also keep in context that these 9 rules and many more like them, you can find in the great spiritual traditions of every culture in the world. You can find these in Hinduism, in Buddhism, in Islam, in Christianity, in so on and so forth, in Judaism, all across the board. So maybe it doesn't work, or maybe we can give it another try, and we can give it a few tries, and we can look at this as a longer term project. And when you do that, you don't always see results right away. Sometimes I joke, being a middle school teacher, this is always my favorite age group. The 12 to 14 age is one of my favorites. It's an acquired taste for many, but I really like them a lot because there's a lot of authenticity there. They're gaining this weird mix where they're gaining enough awareness to say things to you that can be profoundly hurtful, but they don't yet have the awareness that those things would be hurtful. And so they can say really intense, but very insightful things without realizing that it could be hurtful. It's very innocent, but also mature. It's this weird blend. But the other challenge about middle school is you don't necessarily see the fruits of your labor there. And this is the other thing, you're planting seeds. What Sri Yukteswar said for ourselves, I think applies to others, which is no effort on the spiritual path is ever wasted. And the same is true for working with children. No effort, input, energy, whatever it is, when working with children or others, or again, working with ourselves, because are we not just children compared to the masters? I mean, really? So no effort, no positive effort or energy is ever wasted. And so this is the trick. It's we try to live it ourselves. We try then with sincerity to help the child in attitudes like this, because these attitudes I've tested in my life and I have found that they work. Not every single time the way I think they will, but they work. And now, as a sincere desire to help the child, I want to offer it to them as well. And that's the key. We are not the guru. However, to be a really good teacher, to be a really good friend, to be a really good disciple, in some ways we have to try to be, in the sense that the guru truly, literally only wants what's best for us. That's the guru's only attitude. There's no ulterior motive. There is no sense of self there to have a desire for themselves. And when I am doing my best in the classroom, when I'm doing my best with working with a child, that is when it happens, is when I'm truly able to get my agenda out of the way. Would it be more convenient for this child to behave differently right now for me? Maybe. But if I ask them to change based on my convenience, it will not work. And it will blow up in my face, and it just does every single time. But if I ask them the same thing with the attitude of, I know that this will make you happier. I know that this will bring you more joy. This will create an attitude in you that will help you lead a successful, happy life. Every time it works. I'll just move that so that it's, yeah, I can share this. I think it's on our website too, as well. I see a friend doing a dance, a young one. It's kind of like magic. I used to prepare a ton when I started as a teacher, when I started training. My first year, I would come home after school and I would take like a 10-minute break, and then I would just spend the rest of my night preparing for the next day of class, learning new things, creating the perfect lesson plan, all of that. Sometimes it would work. Sometimes it wouldn't. Many times it wouldn't. And and then sometimes life got in the way. I couldn't prepare as much as I liked. I didn't have enough time to get the thing, or I spent the whole night preparing, but I couldn't find anything good. Like it wasn't clicking, it wasn't going. And I noticed something. In the mornings, I started preparing extra at the expense of my sadhana, at the expense of my meditation. And I found invariably that even if by the end of that I created something that I thought was perfect, it would blow up. The energy of the class was off. They weren't interested from the get-go. I mean, they walked in and they weren't interested, even though it was a really great lesson. I mean, I think it was. But so I started an experiment. I started in the mornings saying, you know what? I could use this time for prep. I'm going to meditate longer. I'm going to get my energy right. I'm going to get myself in the right state of mind to be able to enter this in the right way. And what do you know? The teachings work. I found that I would sometimes walk in without even an idea of what I was going to do, like a minute later, but I came in with calmness. I felt centered. I had my attitude right about this isn't about whether I get the expected outcome, that they learn this particular part of history or this particular concept in science by the end of this class, but rather I'm trying to help them to enjoy the process of learning. I'm trying to help them to expand themselves, not because I want them to, but because this is their destiny. This is what they're going to do anyway. I'm just trying to help them to do it better, faster, what have you. Invariably, those were the best classes ever. We went so deep and so far and so much more than I could have possibly planned. And so this is kind of the core of it. Education for life is, like I said, it's energy, not form. Now, once you have the energy right, it's great to have a good lesson plan. And so planning and having everything and knowing what you're talking about is, of course, also important. But it's always built on that. This is what I tell parents when they come to visit. It's like, what makes our school different? This is a school where learning and joy come together. But joy is actually first. You build the foundation of joy, of trust, of connection, of fun, of dynamism. And then on top of that foundation, learning is very easy to build because the foundation is solid. If you try to build the foundation on just the facts of the textbook, of the lesson plan, of whatever it is, you can do something good and nice, but you're not going to be able to build as tall. That foundation is just it's a little bit on sand. And I've just seen this happen, bear out over and over. You know, our school, we're in Silicon Valley, high pressure situation, one of the most competitive areas, I think, in the world, from what I've seen. I worked in India before this, where it's very high pressure. And America, by and large, is not quite at the same level of pressure, but Silicon Valley is. People are always wanting the math scores and the science and the STEM and all of this stuff. And yet somehow, even though we don't focus on any of that, we don't do any standardized testing, we don't do any, we don't follow the most advanced, outer curriculum. Somehow our children, when they go to other schools, are like, oh yeah, it was like I was doing this the year before, I was doing this last year. Like our curriculum ends up being more advanced than grade level, but never because we're like, oh, we got to be at the maximum, we got to push it beyond. It's like, no. Focus on joy, focus on trust, focus on connection, and then learning becomes very easy. Children want to learn. Children are designed to learn. Human beings are designed to learn. What happens is we shut down to that over time. We shut down to our environment because it's too painful, because it's overwhelming, because it's just constant noise and constant pressure. I mean, kids in India, I mean, not to generalize, but the ones that I've met there, I mean, I know these kids, I've taught these kids, I've worked with the teachers. It's like a lot of them know they're going to be an engineer by the time they're 5. Now, is that because they have a great love of engineering? Possibly. And if that is true, fantastic. But somehow I wonder if that idea came from outside somehow, possibly from the parents, possibly from society at large. Who are you? Who are you trying to become? This is what education for life is meant to answer. You are an individual spark of the divine, You are made to find joy and to live a joyful life. And your expression of that is going to be something I can't even dream of. So I'm not here to prepare you for a specific form of that. I'm not here to make you an engineer, although if that's your soul journey, that's fantastic. I'm here to give you the underlying tools so that you can do anything. And more than that, most of all, so that you can find joy within. And that's the core. So there's a billion different ways that you can pick that up. There's so many different ways that it expresses in Education for Life through the schools. But because I've already talked for my 4.5 hours, I thought I'd leave just a little time at the end in case there are any questions or any experiences or any insights that anyone would like to share. I'm going to open up now to that sort of thing, in case anyone would. Now I'm going to take a sip of my water here. And in the time it takes for that to happen, if anyone has a question, jump right in. Otherwise, I will figure out a way to get, oh, perfect. Peggy, wonderful. Thank you. The first is always the best.
I just loved it when you said to look at it from the child, all these teachings from the, oh dear, all these teachings from the child's point of view, you know, to really put it together. And I shared the rules with Artie. Oh, just a magical moment this morning. Lovely talk, lovely talk. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Artie.
Bye.
Oh, wow, since I've seen you. You've grown so much. It's crazy. Yeah, it's yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's also, yeah, you just, every time it gives me a lot of relaxation also to just sort of remember that this being in this small body is a soul that has lived many lifetimes, possibly more than I have. And so also having the humility to recognize that, like, whatever is happening here is a result of karma that, you know, is not meant to be controlled, is beyond my control. And that we're not meant to change them. We're meant to help support them in becoming who they were meant to become, achieving their own highest potential. We have no idea what lessons they're supposed to learn, but if we can give them joy, essentially, if we can help them to find joy within, to be able to live their life that way, they will be able to learn whatever lessons they're meant to learn. God will take care of the rest. That's the brilliant part.
Just thank you, Aryavan. This is really so the questions are coming in. I think it's because you started with that challenge. We can read them aloud for you if you like, and then so we'll start with Jonathan. He asked, could you share about how many students you all have and the class sizes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, yeah, of course. So in our school, it's a wide range. Education for Life is present in Living Wisdom schools, which are schools that are started basically by Ananda devotees, by people who are already, you know, on this path. It doesn't mean all of the teachers necessarily follow the path, but, you know, here in Palo Alto, we're literally on the same property as our temple. You know, for example, we're very linked that way. It doesn't always end up that way, but the Living Wisdom schools are hand in hand with Ananda communities or Ananda groups. Our school is like 50 to 55 right now students, TK or kindergarten through 8th grade, and then another 20 or so at the high school, 9th through 12th grade. So a total of what's that, 70 to 80 on average students, but for 12 grades, an average, let's say, of 5 or 6 per grade, but not per class. We have combined classes. So you end up having, you know, sometimes as small as 6, but often closer to 8 to 12 in a classroom together. So, you know, first and second would be together, fourth and fifth are together, middle schools all together, like so. But then we also have Education for Life in other schools. So Education for Life is an officially recognized curriculum or approach to curriculum, as I usually clarify, in the country of Slovenia, for example. So they can receive public funding. So they have, their schools resemble more closely a normal public school there, which, because they are a relatively wealthy small country, their class sizes are not so big, 25 to 30, but they practice education for life principles in those settings. In a larger school, they may have, hundreds in a school. And then the last expression, the newest expression, is in India, where we're both starting schools, pure living wisdom school. We're trying to start one in Mumbai for an orphanage that's near us, and the villages that are surrounding our ashram for their children. And that'll be smaller. But then also we're working on introducing it into CBSE, like kind of mainstream public type schools. They're technically private schools, but they look much more like our public schools in at least the United States, and maybe also in Australia. Although, as I recall, your education system is miles ahead of ours in terms of a lot of these things. But you can always see that. But the good news is, when the public comes closer to where you are, now you can go way out there and get really far ahead. So, really feel free to do that there. We're miles ahead of our public schools here. But anyway, all that to say, in India, there's a lot of, restriction, a lot of pressure around the curriculum, and around all these things are structured. But we're now bringing education for life as sort of we're infiltrating behind enemy lines, so to speak. And training the teachers in these attitudes so that they can see how they can bring them out in other ways. And they have these little classes where they're able to talk about, personal development and all of these things, where they have a smaller group. So those schools are, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 students plus, but those are not operating at the same level. So it's a really wide spectrum. But to be able to, ideally speaking, EFL classes are small enough that the teacher can really form a connection and an understanding of who each child in their class is and who they're trying to become, because that's where that guidance can really manifest. And if it gets too large, that becomes much more difficult. So it's a wide range. But on the other hand, if we could offer 20% of what we offer in this school to a large school, a public school in India or here, boom. I mean, it's to me very worthwhile, even if we're not able to give everything, because you think about 20% increase in joy for 10,000 kids is always well worth it.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. We have really good questions coming in, and I can tell that we're going to need you to come back. Just tell
Sure.
you.
I would be very happy to. This
10
is...
hours next time.
Yeah. We should do a workshop for sure. People love this.
Sure.
Just so you know,
Sure.
I think especially this Sangha has been just so excited and waiting for this talk. So one of the questions that came in is about the trust yourself rule, and also just, those examples of how you're taking those rules and applying them to the classroom, whether it is a living wisdom school or the public one, like you've said. People are just loving this.
Right. I mean, it's I got a little, I missed something there, so I want to make sure I'm answering the right thing. But trust yourself. Yeah, starting there. We come in to this life. I was an incredibly shy child. I was to the point where I would hold on to my dad's leg and hide behind it when people were around. I remember a Christmas party. I mean, just a community Christmas party. So I knew everybody there, even as a child. It was just people that I really knew and liked and all that. I hid under the table so that because I just couldn't, I didn't want to be the people. I was very shy. And so trust yourself, I think a lot about, it's not always in the outward things I have this idea for a startup and I need to trust myself, although that is an expression of it. It's also just trusting that I'm enough, that I am, it's okay to be in front of people. It's okay to be myself, to be authentic. And so one of the ways that manifested for me that I still remember was in our theater productions. We do a major play on the life of a great soul every year at our school. So this year we did Buddha. Previous year, Harriet Tubman, who was a great emancipator. She freed herself from enslavement in the American South and then freed many others, an incredibly inspiring story. Abraham Lincoln, Krishna, Joan of Arc, really profoundly inspiring lives. And then also we are then inhabiting that life for 6 weeks. We're memorizing all their lines. We're in costume. We're learning about those things also in our social studies classes and in our English classes. And we're writing poetry in the style of the time. And we're learning about art in the time. But through all of that, one of the most powerful things I remember learning is that I was very shy. I could be on stage. They cast me as Buddha when I was like 8 or 9 years old, which was a horrible thing to do from my perspective at that time. But then afterwards, I can still remember, this was 29 or 30 years ago, literally. I can still remember what it felt like after that performance, that feeling I was on stage and it was done. And I realized that I had done it. And I realized that I had nothing to be afraid of, that there was literally nothing there. I had built up something in my mind. And so that's maybe a more unusual expression of it in the classroom, but it's a major part of our curriculum for that reason, which is we see children just totally realize, oh, I can be whoever I want to be, and I can be myself, most importantly. And I mean, granted, you're playing somebody else in that role, but that's part of how you learn. It's like when you're really shy and locked down, being a bigger version of yourself can be too much of a jump. But I can be a bigger version of this other person who's not me. And in that process, I'm starting to learn, oh, I'm acting as this other person, but actually I could just take on some of these qualities myself, or these qualities are already inside me and I can just feel safe to express them myself. So that's one way. Other ways include just being comfortable in the classroom. The teacher we've had, shy or tentative children, some come in with that lesson already learned, but many do not. And it's when you build a classroom environment where everybody trusts everybody else and they are guided by the teacher to sort of understand that, we don't criticize each other, we support each other. Oh, what if we said, oh, I really liked when you did that? Or what if when they're feeling nervous and they get frozen, even just giving a presentation in front of class, what if somebody came up and gave them a hug? And you see that happen naturally. It's not like the first time you might suggest it, but then it just becomes part of the culture. And now when you are up there and you receive a hug and somebody says you can do it, or I'll stand up here with you, you learn that you're capable and eventually capable of anything. And that essentially is trusting yourself.
Technology.
Thank you. That was amazing. Great examples. We have another great question about embracing technology at the school. If you have some, especially with your background, sure you've applied.
Yeah, I love technology. It's so this is one of those things is, what Master told Swami when he put him in charge of the monastery is something that I think a lot about with things like this, which is don't make too many rules. It destroys the spirit. So we don't have there's no set, here's the EFL take on technology. Everything that we do ends up having to be individual. So we're here in Silicon Valley. And so there's just a baseline level of technology attunement and also attachment and also addiction, full range here that is has positives and negatives. Every single thing in this world is dual. That's the nature of it. And so it has a positive expression and it has a negative expression. And we see lots of the negative expression and we see some of the positive. We also have a Living Wisdom school in the countryside of Perugia, Italy. I mean, rolling hills. It's in an old farmhouse. It's beautiful. I'm quite sure the level of technology used there and here is different. And yet both are expressions of EFL. So we always try to bring balance. There are schools in this area who put an iPad into the kid's hand by kindergarten. And that's, not what I would do. we generally don't introduce technology until 4th grade in our school here in Palo Alto, which is late for the area. But we're also not trying, it wouldn't be appropriate for this area to try to be Quakers or Amish level thing where we don't believe in technology, because there is a role for it. The children, the schools they're going to go to after here, they're going to need word processing, they're going to need to know how to research, they're going to need certain skills, and it would be, we feel, maybe not responsible to try to cut that out from under them, because again, it's, the thing itself is not inherently bad. What we want to actually prepare them for is how to use these tools in a way that is uplifting, that is responsible, that will be a positive force in your life, not a negative force. And so like in the middle school, we have a lot of discussions about the role of TikTok and Snapchat, not Snapchat these days, but TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all of these things. And again, not to say, oh, you shouldn't do these. These things are bad. They're infecting your brain. Yeah, they are, but they know that. I asked a word association. I asked the middle school last year. I was like, first word you think of when I say the word, you just off the top, TikTok. 60% of them immediately said brain rot. So they know, they're aware. And so then it's like, okay, so how can we, instead of going to TikTok for 4 hours after school, go to TikTok for 2 hours after school, but then also go outside some and hang out with your friends and play basketball and whatever it is. So rather than judging it like, oh, this is a bad thing, say, yeah, but like, how do you feel after 4 hours of TikTok? Oh, not great. Oh, maybe there's something we can do about this. And then we make it a discussion and a collective discovery. Let's discover what we can do about this. So it's always individual. For some kids, you know, a little more technology could be helpful. For many kids, a lot less could be helpful. But you always want it to be something where it's like you're trying to help. I never, and because also maybe because I also grew up, you know, I really like technology. I've had definite times in my life, maybe even right now, where it's been imbalanced in my life. And so I have a lot of compassion as a result for what the kids are going through. And so I say, you know, I always pick it up from, is this making you happy? And if you still believe it is, fine. But hey, what do you think about that? Or, oh, you look like you didn't sleep last night. Why? Oh, were you up all night on TikTok or playing video games or whatever it is? How do you feel right now? So, and you're planting seeds. And that discussion, I've had students where that took a year, a full school year to sort of get to the point. It's like, oh yeah, I would like to change. But that's the time when change can actually happen, not before. Change, we can only change at the exact moment that we're ready to change, and not a moment before.
Wow.
Well, I think we need to bring you back.
That's,
I mean, even better if you came out here.
we'll work on that.
Would love.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll work on that on the side, but
Yay.
Well,
the
would love it.
let's reschedule, and just so everyone knows, we communicate through social media.
Yeah.
Technology.
What can I say? I'm on YouTube Shorts. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah, let's book you in for a Q&A, and I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for everyone. This is incredible. And
yes, Ivan, thank you.
It's just an amazing opportunity.
Oh, it was a pleasure. And also, so I'd be happy, maybe next time what we could do is sort of an intro kind of workshopy type thing, and with also lots of time for questions and answers. And then just to put it out there, we do have, you know, if you're really interested after all that in like going deeper with EFL, there are courses online that I run. And they're, I can share more and put it on email or whatever it is, but those are also possibilities.
Yeah, we've got an interest, absolutely. So yes, please.
Wonderful.
Please, we'll probably sign up because we're prepping for the Joyful Hearts little holiday camp that we're gonna have.
Wonderful.
So we would love to get trained officially by you.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, we could also pick something up based on what you're actually, you know, doing, which is if you're preparing for a camp type thing, like we can make it very specific about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be abstract.
And I think also there's some people that even just applying this to parenting, they would love that. So yeah, we would just love it to do more.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, I see you say she
a
has a lot of
full-time
great
move to
books.
Australia is probably required for a short period of time.
Well, we can take him seasonally because your summers are our school years still.
Yeah.
So
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
brainstorming.
It's the
The endless
reverse.
summer. The endless summer.
So
forever.
all of
Endless
our Sangha can like go, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Uh,
Shall we, let's send you ohms. Is that
Yeah.
okay? We'd love to send you ohms for all your
sure.
grandparenting. My mom added parenting,
Absolutely.
grandparenting, caring. Yes. Okay. Oh.
Oh. Om.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It was so fun to be with you all. You guys give so much energy just with your presence and your being. And so yeah, I really appreciate that. And looking forward to next time.
Thank you.
Joy.
Joy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.